right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Midday Due Diligence, part of Pick Six Sports. I'm Stevie J. That's Camber. And be sure as you roll on in to like and subscribe Pick Six Sports, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all across social media platforms. We're just here to, bring you a little Dallas Cowboys updates. We'll talk about the game from the Vikings. We'll continue talking about the Thanksgiving game coming up against the New York Football Giants. And, of course, that one is going to be big. Going to be big for a couple of different reasons. Division, playoff seeding. Also, as it turns out, it's going to be big in the Odell Beckham Jr. sweepstakes, as it seems. So we'll discuss all of that. But first, Camber, we got to get to this beatdown that the Dallas Cowboys gave the Vikings 40-3.
40 burger.
40 burger. I don't think anyone really saw that coming. I mean, people predicted the Cowboys would win, sure, but I don't know anyone who predicted them to win by even double digits. I mean, maybe a person here or there, a 31-18 type of game, maybe, but not that.
No, not at all. I have to say that is probably the most complete football we've seen this team play this season, perhaps possibly in the entire league. As a team competing as a whole without errors, flawlessly, almost everything was executed flawlessly, all the way down to Maher. Oh, you're going to kick 160-yard field goal? No, the league's going to screw with you and make you kick it again. And he said, no problem. Watch this.
Yeah. And I really you want to be professional. You don't want to get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, anything of that nature. But I really, really wish that Maher, after hitting the second one, had looked over at an official and given him the old D Generation X. Like, come on, babe. Yeah, what's up? Get on some of this. And, it just goes to show this is obviously something we already knew going into this game, not the same Brett Maher that we once knew in his first tenure with Dallas. But what is absolutely amazing is that he's not just better. We're talking about a guy who is kicking at an all-pro level right now.
Yeah. He said he's not the same kicker he was when he was with us last time, that he came back a different guy. And I absolutely believe him.
I think that the stat CBS Sports put out, the first team in NFL history to score 4 touchdowns and to kick 3 field goals from 50-plus yards out in a single game. I mean, that is, fun with numbers. Baseball fans do this all the time. Baseball fans will be like, it was the first time a guy singled through the middle at 12:32 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon at Fenway Park with the clouds at overcast. Like, good Lord, man. But that is pretty cool. 4 touchdowns and 3 50-plus yard field goals in the same game. That's when you're really, really rolling.
Right. And shout out to all my friends. I had Maher on a couple of my fantasy teams scoring 20-plus points this week. Some of my other teams didn't do so good.
I was going to say, the one team that didn't happen.
It did not.
Yeah.
I lost to Stevie J this week, so.
That's okay. She won the first game.
Right.
And so this was a little bit of a revenge tour, if you will. And I was just fortunate enough to have Travis Kelce play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, dude went ham.
Right.
But aside from that, Camber, what stood out to you in this Vikings game the most?
Just that these guys took a lesson from last week. They got pissed, they got right, and they brought a message. I mean, do we have to absolutely love that Micah Parsons walked onto the field wearing the exact same shade of purple that the Vikings wore? And they, as low as we were last Monday, and as, upset and everything we were, they were more. And they did everything they could to change it. And look what continue it. I want this to continue through the rest of the season. But
yeah, I mean, yeoman's like approach. I mean, just hard hat, we're not here to talk. We're not here to make a statement, or we're not going to say anything. We're just going to go out and we're going to put in the work. And I think that was kind of the message following the Green Bay game. Maybe were you guys talking a little bit too much about Odell Beckham? Did you put a little bit too much into the McCarthy return to Lambeau and all of that stuff? You really didn't hear much of anything between the Green Bay and the Minnesota game. There really, there wasn't any kind of harping on, of course, Coach Edwards returning to Minnesota, Anthony Barr, Jaron Kearse. Kearse once had an interception on Dak Prescott. He's picked off Dak Prescott while with the Vikings, and you really didn't hear anything about anyone's return or anything of that nature. You honestly didn't even hear much about Minnesota and the great record. It was just we are focused. All right. We are dead set on what we need to accomplish. And a couple of things that I think go into that. They did a phenomenal job of getting Minnesota away from their run game, and they did it early. I mean, to the point where it wasn't a Packers situation where they never gave up on it, despite being, a 2-score game late in the ball game. They gave you the hint. The Cowboys gave the Vikings the hint that, look, you keep running the ball, we are just going to keep scoring. We are going to continue to put together long drives, and if you slip up one time, this game is going to be over. And that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yeah, they came out of the gates swinging. Thank God he deferred. We didn't have to deal.
Yeah. I don't understand.
But he did the right thing this week, and we deferred, and it, not that we actually needed it.
I thought Minnesota won the toss.
Well, they did. They did. You're right. I guess I was trying to give McCarthy even more flowers than he needed. So yeah.
But your guy, I think we always kind of look at the, receive versus defer to the second half as getting that extra possession, right? If you have a possession at the end of the first half and you're able to put points on the board, you get a possession immediately without your opponent touching the ball.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I heard your guy, Brian Broaddus, say something that was really interesting. The most pumped up the crowd is going to be is at the beginning of the game. And I got to admit, start of the game, I heard the skull, all that. And I was like, man, that's energy. That is quality fandom right there. I loved it. And you're going to take the ball and put your offense out there and either A, kill your own crowd, or B, you're going to play in that noise right out of the gate. Then the next thing your guy says is halftime in the NFL is 15 minutes. It's relatively quick, but going to the bathroom and the concession stand is not quick.
No.
So open the second half is the emptiest and quietest that a stadium will be. And obviously crowd noise is a factor, but I'd never really looked at it in those terms that Brian put it. And it just makes it all that more mind-boggling as to why a team would elect to receive the opening kickoff.
Right. Yeah, and I've been in that stadium. It's not much different than AT&T in trying to get down at halftime to get to the bathroom, get a drink, anything like that. You're looking halfway through the third pretty much most of the time trying to get back up to your seat. But I'm just so dang happy at this game. It was they proved they disproved the haters, and they gave us faithful something to hold on to still. So
with that, let's do a little star up
for
the Dallas Cowboys. Now let's start on the offensive side of the ball.
So I want the obvious ones to say would be Dak Prescott, would be Tony Pollard. I on the space with Mass after the game the other day, I said it was nice to have CeeDee Lamb right out the gates. But I'm going to shift. After thinking about it for a while and watching some of the tape a little bit more, this offensive line, especially led by Zach Martin. And I think Zach Martin was mad. He's heard some of the rumblings. Oh, is Zach Martin the same as he used to be? Well, that was premium, amazing, lights out Zach Martin that we got on the field. And him and that tandem with Terrence Steele, it was a great performance by the entire offensive line. Clearly, they were punching holes for Pollard and Zeke to get through and everything like that. But Zach Martin, bless your heart, we love you.
Absolutely. El Presidente.
Yep.
Zach Martin. Yeah, the offensive line was incredible. And, they kept going back to Terrence Steele and just showing what a mauler he's been in the run game. And Dallas ran the ball 40 times and, 40 rushes, 40 points. I mean, imagine if you could score a point per rush.
Right.
That's weird to think about, But so for my star up on the offensive side of the ball, I am going to go Tony Pollard. Even though, obviously it's kind of the obvious choice along with Dak Prescott. But I think that Pollard showed something that we anticipated getting out of Memphis when he was drafted in 2019? I think it was 2019, 4th-round pick out of Memphis. Well, we saw him line up as a receiver. We've heard the camp rumblings of him lining up in the slot and all type of stuff. But we'd never really seen him take shots outside of maybe the 5-yard out, the screens underneath, those types of things. Next thing you know, Dak is just dotting one right there. Boom. In the midst, and Tony Pollard is off to the races. We haven't seen a running back do that in I don't know how long for the Dallas Cowboys. I know that Zeke has had a couple of long receptions in his career, particularly early on, but as far as something like that, we haven't seen anything like that from a Dallas Cowboys back in a long time, and I would love if they continued getting him involved in the passing game. 6 receptions, over 100 yards to go along with 80 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the guy really did it all. He's everything that we had always hoped he would be.
Yeah. Minnesota gave up massive yards. I think it was 483 total.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you put
I've been saying it's been on par for them. They give up massive yards. They really do.
They didn't get the turnovers. That's their thing. They didn't get the turnovers.
Right. So, defensive side of the ball. This one has been, when a defense operates so flawlessly, I could just walk around and put a little gold star on absolutely everybody's shirt this week. And, this one's hard. Micah's the obvious. Diggs is the obvious. But I have to stick with Diggs on this one. He shut down the number 1 wide receiver in the league. Forgot he was there. Gone. But also giant shout out to the leader, Dan Quinn, because we have not seen Diggs travel all year long, really. And he changed it up and said, okay, I'm going to take him out of the equation. Jefferson's not going to be a factor in this game. We're going to have Diggs travel. So Diggs gets a gold star, but so does backwards hat Dan Quinn.
And in their last 2 games, of course, going back just shortly a year ago, Justin Jefferson has 5 catches for 52 yards or 54 yards in 2 whole games.
Right.
All right. Most folks would be looking at 250 yards against Justin Jefferson. All right. Go ask the Bears. Go ask the Packers and the Lions, who have to face him twice a year, what his totals are against them. And I'm betting it's not 5 catches for 50 yards.
Right.
Probably a little more than that. So my star up on the defensive side of the ball, I thought Jaron Kearse played his best game of the season, and I don't think it's even close. You look at the tackling, he had a pass breakup, he had a sack. When we fell in love with Jaron Kearse a year ago, it was because he was able to help put pressure down in the box on the quarterback. He was able to cover tight ends like a TJ Hawkinson. And this year, he's dealt with injuries. He hadn't really been himself. He hadn't been the Jaron Curse of 2021. But we definitely saw that guy against Minnesota. And, going back to me talking about how perhaps we didn't have the pageantry for the old Vikings that are on the team. But that doesn't mean that inside, George Edwards didn't really want it, that a Jaron Curse didn't really want it. A team that he was on that maybe didn't give him as fair of a shake as what he thought he deserved. And now you come in and you're a baller and you're a borderline Pro Bowl caliber player. And he showed out against his old club. I love the game that Jaron Curse played, and I can't wait to go back and watch how the whole thing unfolded for him. But that said, those are our star up players. Just a fantastic showing. I mean, you really could have picked anybody,
right?
Just throw the dart, whoever it gets, player of the game.
And we're giving one to Maher on special teams.
Absolutely. Which is funny because the one time that Brian Anger punts, he pins it at the 2.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Like everything worked. You want to know what firing on all cylinders looks like? That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, honestly, I think it is probably I'm going through all the games this season. I think that was the most complete performance by a team so far this season. And it's in a team that had only lost against a team that's only lost one game. And that's why I think it's even that more commanding of a performance.
Well, see, and I'm thinking that it may be the best win of the NFL season, not just talking about the Dallas Cowboys, but you're talking about you're into the 3rd month of the season. This team is 8-1. They're in control. They just beat the Bills. They're coming off a big dramatic win. They're rolling. And you beat them by the widest margin in league history or in your team's history on the road. The biggest win in Dallas Cowboys history on the road against an 8-1 team. That's a little bit different than last year when you pounded the Falcons, of course, a team that isn't very good. The Giants, the Commanders, the final week against the Eagles when it was 3rd string against 2nd and 3rd string and all this. We had big blowout wins a year ago, but as everyone loved pointing out, look at the caliber of the opponent. All right. Well, this opponent was 8-1, had tied for the best record in the NFL, just beat the beloved Bills. I mean, what do you?
I heard people say that this was our Super Bowl kind of caliber game, that this was a must-win game, that they used the word Super Bowl for us in this week's win. Well, I don't know how much harder you can knock it out of the park.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And a part of that, if you ask me, I thought that a massive part of their success was Ezekiel Elliott being back in the backfield. All right. And I've gotten a little pushback on that. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah. Dorrance Armstrong was amazing.
He was.
I mean, when the opportunity comes to consistently rush the passer, the Dallas Cowboys might be the most dangerous defense in the NFL.
Right.
It's whenever you kind of get into this hyper back and forth, a lot of possessions, stopping the clock, passing game. Is it going? Is it not going? It's when you get into that I think your opponents are able to establish the run. They feel like we'll have time to get another possession so we can run the ball here. That's not the case when you have a guy like Ezekiel Elliott in the lineup. We love Tony Pollard, and he's the better runner. No one's going to argue that. He's a better pass catcher. He's faster. He's quicker. He's all the things, and that's understood. Zeke, you look at time of possession. The Packers, 36 minutes to 31 minutes had the advantage. The Cowboys in the Vikings game, 37 minutes to 23 minutes. And that's in large part because there is a methodicalness to the Dallas Cowboys going down the field. You go and you look at how long some of those drives took, and then when they punch it in or just get points, if you're the other side, if you're the Vikings, suddenly you're not thinking we can go out and run the ball and continue to just do what we like to do. They're thinking, man, we may not get the ball back.
Right.
I mean, we may not get another possession. We got to try to score quick so that we can maybe have another chance to score again. And that's what Ezekiel Elliott brings to the game. He shortens it. He extends your drives, but shortens the game. And that's very, very valuable when you can do it at a high efficiency rate. All right. When you're getting first downs, when you're punching in, from the 1 yard line, when you're getting third and short, they're willing to run on 3rd and 3 pretty consistently. And I don't know, outside of maybe like Tennessee and Cleveland, who's willing to run on 3rd and 3 consistently, no matter who your opponent is.
Right. Right. And I think we have to absolutely mention Zeke's pass defense. It's been missed. Pollard's not that guy. Pollard's not going to be there in pass protection for Dak at all, and it showed that Zeke was there for it.
Oh, absolutely. And protecting Dak Prescott is a very important thing, and especially when your left tackle is probably a year away from being a good quality left tackle. We appreciate the service that Tyler Smith has provided for us this year, but it's not the ideal scenario for them to be in. So
Right.
when you have that extra back, it allows you to let your tight ends run free. It allows you to not have them hang in and, make sure, okay, is this guy, I got to get this chip on, and then I got to make sure. No, they can just release and get out in their route and trust that you have a back who can do the job to protect Dak Prescott. For me, it's the extending of the drives. It's the time. You're not going to score if you can't get the football. And that's what the Dallas Cowboys did. I mean, just the ultimate game of takeaway and keep away from the Minnesota Vikings, who thrive off turnovers defensively and then try to, score points with the Justin Jefferson, with Dalvin Cook, TJ Hawkinson, Adam Thielen. They've got weapons. It just didn't matter because they couldn't get on the field.
No.
Point blank, couldn't get on the field.
Right. That and Kirk Cousins, he must have looked up at the clock and figured out that he was close enough to prime time, because he played exactly how a rattled Kirk Cousins plays.
It's because it's getting dark earlier.
Right.
He was like, I don't know, that sun needs to come out now.
Right. So, yeah.
It's funny because the week before it was all about Kirk Cousins. They put the chain on him on the airplane and,
right.
looking like riffraff out there. But I don't think that they felt the exact same way coming out of this Cowboys game. Him or the offensive line. I mean, Dallas, they put on a very dominating game. I think Micah had 9 or 10 pressures, depending on which stat site you want to look at.
Right.
But the team as a whole, they're on pace for 60 sacks.
It's insane.
It's very insane.
That's insane.
The league high last year was 55 with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
And Dallas sitting at 42 right now. They've got 7 games to go. That is just bizarre. I think you're going to have to keep running the ball on offense. I love the way they mix Zeke and Pollard. I think they need each other. I think Dak needs that run game. I think the receivers need this run game as well. So I'm not entirely sure that this wasn't the absolute best game plan that they possibly could have ran with. I mean, as far as running the football, mixing in the pass, Dak was perfect by all accounts. I mean, even the first incompletion to Dalton Schultz was an absolute dot. I mean, it was as good as you could have possibly thrown it. So I think that they played, like you've said, the most complete game that they've played all season. You having a little trouble over there? I think we got Camber. You having trouble hearing? Let's see if we can communicate through the.
I've lost. Yeah, I can't hear anything. I've lost audio. Hold on.
Well, I hope everyone. I mean, let's see. So there's still people in here viewing, so I would guess they haven't lost audio. If you guys want to do me a favor and sound check, can y'all hear me? Someone just wants to throw up a comment, a thumbs up, or something. And if not, then obviously they couldn't hear me, which would be strange. All right. So now I've lost you. All right. Great. I don't know. You still got nothing, Camber? Evidently. All right. Appreciate you, Gregory. Appreciate you. Bruce. Mendoza. Appreciate you guys. All right. We'll see if we can get you back. Correct, Chris. And I could hear Camber. She just couldn't hear me. That's okay. We'll see if we can continue this thing on. I didn't have her muted. Did you think I would do that? I wouldn't do that to Camber. So I was talking about Zeke's impact, and I understand that it's a hard concept for some people to wrap your brain around because, well, 3.8 yards per carry versus 6.8 yards per carry. That's Zeke versus Pollard, that type of thing.
I'm back.
Hello.
Yeah. It just couldn't hear a dang thing for a minute. Didn't matter if I switched it, off of, and onto the laptop, nothing. It was like, bye.
I'm playing. I wasn't saying anything, actually.
I didn't think you were.
Yeah, okay.
That's why I didn't fall for it.
Dang it. And I didn't want to go too far with it. That would – okay. Anyway, so we're just talking about Zeke's impact. And here's the number one thing that you have to remember. Tony Pollard is still playing the running back position. This has nothing to do with Pollard as a guy, as a player. If you look at Tony Pollard right now, 100 and something carries on the season, you're happy. You're like, let's give him more. Let's give him more. I felt that way at the beginning of the year. I said he needed 15 touches a game. Touches, rushing, receiving, doesn't matter.
Right.
But what you don't want is the 300 touches, 40 catches, or 300 carries, 40 catches. And then all of a sudden at the end of the season, you're looking at a guy who's like, man.
Right.
Like, I've just been toting that right. That's how running backs get worn down. Not everyone can be Derrick Henry. Not everyone can be a Nick Chubb. As a matter of fact, that's about the end of your list right there.
Right. Yeah.
Those
you got two guys. You got two guys. Yeah.
Exactly. And so where Zeke's value is short yardage, extending the drives, time of possession, shortening the ball game as a whole. And then, of course, pass protection, those types of things. But also look at Zeke, whereas maybe we used to see Pollard as someone who could keep Zeke fresh. Look at Zeke as someone who can keep Pollard fresh down the stretch of the season. I like this.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, how many times did we see Zeke just pick his way through, fall forward. You need one, got two. All right. Those 2 yards look impressive? No, but 1st and 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Pollard's going to finesse and get you through. Pollard's going to finesse it down the field and Zeke's going to punch it in. And and I've been screaming this for a long time. People keep saying, oh, one or the other. If I get offered two different kinds of desserts and I like them both, maybe I would like to have them both. There's no reason it has to be one or the other.
I'm with you. That's like saying, you really put that Reese's in your ice cream?
Right.
Yes,
I
did. And it was delicious.
Right.
Peanut butter and jelly, Gregory. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
PB&J,
right.
bacon and eggs.
Right.
Does not matter. Whatever you want to come up with.
Yep.
Milli Vanilli. That's not one.
No.
Okay. We're done with that then. All right. But the point is, these guys need each other, and you're better off with both of them because you're going to get a relatively same guy in week 18 and 19 going into the postseason as you had in week 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
Keeping fresh is very important. And Zeke, the beating that he takes helps to keep a guy like Pollard fresh.
Right. And I have to shout out to Kellen Moore for the way he played. He called this game.
Absolutely.
This has to be his best game call of the season. And the way he did rotate those two out and use them the way he did.
Hey, there was even one of Pollard's first touches. It may have been his first touch. A toss. They had Zeke and Pollard back there. They motioned Pollard into the backfield, snapped the ball. Zeke is the lead blocker. They toss it to Pollard, and it's probably his one bad snap of the game where he, instead of following his blocks to the edge and go back and find it, guys, it's there. Oh, the edge is there. Zeke, and there was a receiver downfield. Fantastic job of blocking on the edges. And Pollard, I guess, doesn't see it. He cuts back and runs right into a defensive tackle. It was like a 2-yard gain when it could have been something like 15. So, their use of both Zeke and Pollard, I'd go right back to that. If I'm Kellen, that's something that I would come back to. All you do is pull Pollard to the side and say, hey, man, it's there. Trust that it's there and continue following your block. You do that, and you're looking at the edge of a 100-yard game rushing, and then a 100-yard game receiving for Tony Pollard. And, outside of that, the Dallas Cowboys really played flawlessly throughout the entirety of it. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same with Micah. Like, Micah played this perfect game, really. With this one exception, this one very strange, when he has Kirk Cousins wrapped up and then he lets him go. Because Kirk pumped. He thought he let the ball go on the pump.
Right. Yeah. I think, Micah thought that he had thrown the ball. And number two, I blame that on the league. The league has put these quarterbacks in such a bubble that these guys are so afraid to make the wrong move. I'm to the point that you need to put a red flag on each hip of the quarterback, and that's how you get to touch them because it's gotten ridiculous.
So you obviously, no matter what, it's always been a matter of if the quarterback has the ball out. I think the timing of it has changed, how many steps you can take, how long the ball's been out. That's what's changed. And you can't blame Micah for letting up if you think the quarterback has gotten the ball out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very fluky thing. This, it's as fluky as it possibly even goes. You'll never see it again. I can't imagine a scenario where you'll ever see that again in his whole career, probably. So with that said, though, Micah went from, what was it, maybe 7th or 8th in sacks, and now is number 2 in the NFL behind Matt Judon, I think, in New England. Who's got 13. Micah has 10. And that's why I wish that Green Bay game had gone different. That's why I wish they hadn't been able to just run it right down our throats. But I think you also saw Dan Quinn learn a lesson. I think you saw a lot of Cowboy fans, and myself included, learn a lesson about how to use Micah Parsons, because he played off ball quite a bit against Green Bay, and a lot of people were saying, "No, you keep moving him around. Playing off ball is not that bad sometimes." The moving him around to me now is going to be this side, that side, A gap, B gap. It's more about where is he rushing the quarterback from, rather than where and what position is he playing. It's going to be he's coming from the wide 9, he's coming from the 6, he's coming from the the 3 technique, the 4 technique, those types of things, rather than, well, he's got to play off ball. And I think he should be rushing the passer 80% of the time he's on the field. And it seems like that was the case against Minnesota.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Dan Quinn tried something the week before, and I don't know if it was because Anthony Barr was out and he, had to switch some things up. But that, and, I think one thing that made a lot of difference is Sam Fowler had him, or not, Williams had himself a great game. Fowler had him good game too, but Williams had a really great game.
He did. And I think that you're seeing his value a little bit as a run stopper, and he had a powerful move in the pass rush as well. But you really need guys stopping the run on the edges. All right. And that's going to be something that if Dorrance can't get it done, if Fowler is too inconsistent there, then you don't want to count on a young guy like that. If you have a Dorrance Armstrong and a Dante Fowler, you don't want to have to count on him to lead that charge. But if he's the best at doing it, I don't know what other choice you have. And then you can start mixing in Dorrance and Fowler whenever it comes to rushing the passer. They all seem to be, Fowler's having a really good year rushing the passer. So is Dorrance. Sam Williams not far behind either of them, though.
I don't think so at all. I think Dan Quinn did his homework. That's why he fought so hard to get him. And I think he's a pretty complete player. I mean, his pass rush is fantastic also. I don't know if anybody saw Brian Baldy break down that one yesterday, but he, those moves that he has, he's hooking the arm, he's, doing the spin. I think he's going to be something.
This is interesting. And the reason why I say this is interesting, because what we're conditioned to right now as Cowboy fans is you've got a big game coming up on Thanksgiving after a big, massive blowout win. And what usually happens? Things don't always go well. I think we're 3 out of the 3 wins of the last 10 Thanksgivings. 3 wins. And not only that, but there's been a lot of letdowns following big wins, regardless of if it's Thanksgiving or just someday in September, October, November, December. And that's the trend that has to break. Right. That is, kind of how the Dallas Cowboys have been for the last 27 years, is letting you down after the big win. So, Camber, you were talking about, being pissed off, how they took a different approach, to the Minnesota game than they did the Green Bay game, where maybe they were talking a lot. They were, the pageantry of Mike McCarthy and all of that stuff. And then it was just yeoman, it was just hard hat in the Minnesota approach. Mm-hmm. Can you take that approach for the whole season? Can you take that approach for 2 more whole months? If you do, then you could very well be looking at yourself competing in the NFC title game. And I don't know about you, Camber, but I'm to the point as a fan that you get to the NFC Championship game, I'm very happy. That is progress. All right. That's a place we haven't been in a very long time. So get there, and I'm pretty pleased. Now, of course, once you get there, expectations change, desire changes. You want to win that game. You want to go to the Super Bowl. But as it stands right here where we're at, that is what I want, is an NFC title appearance out of this. And you got to continue that approach that you took with Minnesota to get there.
Yeah. And I think that maybe they are thinking about some of that. I mean, you notice that the OBJ visit is not until after Thanksgiving, after our Thanksgiving game. They didn't need that dog and pony show to come into before the OBJ Bowl on Thursday, which, with the injuries that have been happening on that turf up there in New York and the way that's going, I also have to think that if they're going, I want them to keep this approach. You have to wonder, did like the Eagles peak early in the season and now we're rolling into peak and coming into our own for the rest of the year? So it might be easier to stay angry and keep this kind of mindset going if we are on the uphill rise to peaking. And, we may be hitting, going against some teams that have peaked and on their way back down.
Yeah, very possible. And I think we all saw it with the Giants coming. I mean, even at once upon a time, what were they, 5-1 at one point? I think everybody still was like, that ain't real.
Right.
That's not like, I did a lot of preaching this past week about respect your opponent and, don't get too, filled up with your own hype and, all that type of stuff. I didn't give the Giants that, much like many people who were like, they've won a bunch of ball games, but my gosh, they look awful. Like, how could you possibly think that this Giants team is a legitimate contender? Now, coming into this game, you lost Wan'Dale Robinson. You lost Azeez Ojulari, not necessarily for the season, but he's not playing Thursday.
Right.
You got a whole bunch of other guys who are questionable, which short week, the injury report is always going to look different in a short week. But
I mean, we have Micah, Tank, and who else on ours right now? That
Tank was on last week's though.
Yeah. And then Hankins was on it yesterday.
Yep.
So yeah, we had Anthony Barr, we know is not going to play because he re-injured that hamstring in practice. We've got a handful of guys that are sick, and I need them to licking doorknobs, whatever y'all are doing, get healthy and get right, because that was who all was sick: Basham, Fowler, Hankins, Kelvin Joseph. Kelvin Joseph left the game.
Yeah, ill. That was the report. Is he left in like the second or third quarter?
Yeah, that was pretty bizarre. Right.
What is that?
No, I don't know.
And now you got a whole bunch of other guys sick, and it looks like, Camber, tell me, it looks like almost exclusively on the defensive side of the ball.
It is Fowler, Hankins, Kelvin Joseph, and Basham. So.
And he's the only one who's not a defensive lineman.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's really strange to me that you get all these guys who are ill. I gotta wonder if it's just playfulness, if it's manipulating things in a legal way, for your team. But right. Kelvin Joseph going out in the middle of a game with an illness,
right?
I don't know if I've ever heard of that before.
Me either. I mean, maybe he needed to borrow DK Metcalf's cart, and I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is that you're either puking or you're having the other issue that you'd have to be leaving the game in the middle of it. Let's be real.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
Yeah.
No, I really don't. I didn't hear about this. DK Metcalf left on the cart?
Yeah, you did. It was, somebody in the chat might remember. This was probably like 6 games ago. And when you got to go, you got to go. And he wasn't going to make it unless they took him on the cart.
I missed this.
You did?
I missed this. Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't gonna make it. He, the old Lamar Jackson trotting down the.
Yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't even do the Lamar Jackson. He needed to be driven.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You're the puking or you have the other issue is the only thing I really can think of that you have to leave the game for, but I don't know.
I'm interested to go back and see how he played, Kelvin Joseph, prior to going out.
Right. We had the problem. Yeah. Yes, Bruce. He had that hands issue. I mean, he got called on that penalty.
He did.
Yeah.
I didn't hear from him the rest of the game until they were like, yeah, he's sick. He's out.
Right. Right. Yeah. So.
But Anthony Brown, I'm curious to see. It seemed like he played a little bit. I mean, everybody played well. And, this is why whenever it comes to the old, chicken or the egg conversation about the pass rush or the secondary, do you want the secondary to give them that extra second to get there, or do you want the pass rush to – dude, pass rush.
Right.
Always pass rush every time. I've never understood the question.
Right.
I've never understood the question. Pass rush. Yes, that one.
Yes, do that.
That's just me. I mean, maybe there's an argument on the other side that could be given, but I've always just thought, dude, Kelvin Joseph can be a great shutdown corner if the quarterback never throws the ball.
Right.
He is fantastic out there if Kirk Cousins is laying on the ground.
Yeah.
So with that, let's look ahead at this Giants game, Camber. We've talked about some of the players that are going to be out. We mentioned, of course, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, who went out weeks and weeks ago. Azeez Ojulari, who actually had a decent game the first time these two teams played. I'm interested to see kind of how their tackles play. Evan Neal is questionable, though I bet he plays.
Right. Yeah, he was limited yesterday.
Yep.
Bellinger, something with his eye, the tight end. He did not practice because of his eye.
Dang,
I don't
the
know.
tight end.
Yeah. We've got two offensive linemen. I can say Feliciano.
Are they depth guys? I don't know. I mean, outside of Neal and Thomas, I don't know their O-line.
Let me take a peek here. Feliciano's their center, and he's got neck problems. Ezekiel is backup for Lemieux at left guard. And then O'Neal questionable. They've got, and like we talked about, the wide receivers that have already gone out with injury.
Yeah. Man, they are busted.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got some problems.
Dude. So center Feliciano, I don't know. Dude, this is wild. Azeez Ojulari.
And Pinnock's jaw, is his jaw. I have to say that looking at this injury report, so you have Bellinger with an eye, you have Moreau with an oblique, and Pinnock with his jaw.
And then on our side, it's like 6, 6, 6, 6. Hey, who are you? The NFL can't tell you that there's not a bug going around the locker room or something, Right. I think they're just being crafty with it. Yeah. That's just my opinion. But, I mean, even, golly, Adoree Jackson, Tony Jefferson, Aaron Robinson, Fabian Moreau, Azeez Ojulari, the depth guys like Darian Beavers, the rookie linebacker, Xavier McKinney. These are all guys with some sort of medical mark this week against them. And as we're talking about, some of them could be just fools. We're just putting this on here because it does exist, but it's not a legitimate issue. It's not actually a problem. We'll see. But man, some of those guys have already missed time. Like they've been out. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And if you've really only got one offensive lineman out there who's worth anything at this point, good luck, Saquon. I mean,
Yeah.
really, to me, that's their only hope.
Right.
Saquon Barkley.
Daniel Jones, he is a mobile quarterback, but he's not going to he's going to be mobile from the pass rush and not mobile running the ball forward on this one, I think.
Always brings in the interesting spy question.
Right. And who would you have spy? Would you have Curse? Would you have Micah? Would you get Donovan Wilson on him? Who would you have spy?
I think Donovan Wilson is probably your best option in that regard, and unless you continue wanting him in coverage, and then we got to start thinking of Damone Clark as an option there as well,
right?
Yeah. Because he's playing extended snaps with Anthony Barr gone, and you think about spying a quarterback, you're basically you're just kind of like, all right, man, I just want to keep you contained, I want to keep you in front of me, eyes on you all time type of thing. And if you're concerned about Damone Clark being implemented and how many reps he's gotten, this can put him in a position where he's getting reps, but not necessarily dealing with all of the physical stuff as he just kind of watches Daniel Jones. Now, of course, that may be your assignment, but they hand the ball off. So you got to go and help in run defense and things like that. I'm not saying that he's not going to have a lot of contact or, be in the muck of it. But when you're spying the quarterback, you're a little bit cleaner out there and you're just making sure that things are contained. That may be a good assignment for Damone Clark.
Right.
This is kind of what we were talking about earlier, is getting Pollard out there. And, yeah, that was on a linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And their linebackers are not very good.
Jalen Smith.
Is he still on the team?
He's there starting.
No. Yes, he is.
He is.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, if you can match Tony Pollard up with Jalen Smith, it's another 40 burger. Right. There's no way. Right. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see him matched up against pretty much anybody. But I think Tony Pollard is the most like,
yeah.
Is licking our chops, Thanksgiving dinner,
Yeah. Tony's going to cut and go this way, and Jalen's going to leap that way, and
the man is a walking, talking meme.
Yeah.
All right.
He's a lovely gentleman.
So with that said, Camber.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving versus the Giants and what it means for Odell Beckham. Obviously, we want to win the game. How much does a win solidify you landing Odell Beckham Jr.?
The win completely solidifies him coming here. The last hurdle is the contract with Catboy. Right. But as everything that the team can do to show him he needs to be here, they win. It's done. It's done on that side.
Do you think the Giants winning? See, I'm kind of under the impression that the Giants aren't really. I think they're used to push up the price. We're actually the first ones. For the first time, the Dallas Cowboys aren't the ones being used here.
Right.
And even though they're going to returf, they're going to go a different direction with the artificial grass instead of the what is it called? It's a specific type of turf. All right. That's where the conversation comes. It's not just turf. It's a specific type that's used in a handful of stadiums across the league. And the Giants have said, we're changing it. All right. That has more to do with more than just Odell Beckham Jr. If you have that kind of turf, I think that players, as they continue getting educated on that type of thing, will start to kind of go, man, I don't want to risk it. If this team is in the ballpark of the same money and they run grass or artificial grass, I'm going to go that way. So I think that the fact that Odell would still have to play a handful of games on that turf should have an impact on his decision. I mean, we just saw Wan'Dale Robinson go down. This was OBJ's second torn ACL in 16 months. You got to remember that.
And it was one on each knee, right? It's not like he's got
it was
one.
the same knee.
Is it the same? I'm not sure. Okay.
I thought it was both on the right.
Okay.
But we'll double check that. You could be correct. I was under the impression it was the same knee. But regardless, do you want to risk? There's nothing you can do about going on the road, and there's nothing.
No, it is the same. You're right. It is the same knee.
There's nothing you can do about playoff matchups where the Super Bowl is hosted. Those types of things you have no control over. But if you can play one or two less games on that turf, then you could actually look at yourself as, I'm actually going to be making a few $1 million more because I'll be available next year rather than sitting out again or retiring. Hell, if it happens again, don't come back. You know what I mean? Don't come back. So I really think that it should be a done deal. I don't see how he goes back to New York with how depleted they are. They're stumbling. They're going the wrong direction in terms of wins. The turf is still going to be there for this year, So it's the Cowboys to lose. OBJ is the Cowboys to lose.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, that hurdle is Catboy. Well, we need him to. So there's conflicting stories out there that he has been medically cleared, and then we're hearing he isn't passing the physical yet. And that's why the extra 2 weeks, that he said he needed to make a decision and get himself football ready and everything. So I think it'll come down to a lot of that.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Guys, you have to understand, he doesn't really want $20 million a year. All right. Y'all ever bought a house? What did you pay the asking price? Because if you did, then you might want to learn something the next time you buy a house. All right. You come down a little bit, you haggle, you bargain. The Panthers didn't really want 2 first-round picks for Christian McCaffrey. All right. That ain't how this works. You shoot up here because you probably were going to get this right here. And because you shot here, you're actually trying to get this. All right. So you look at the Panthers, they end up with a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick. They end up with all of that for a running back who is broken, who can't stay healthy. How they got that? Because they looked at everyone and said, hey, 2 first-round picks and he's yours. And whereas you might have originally just gotten a 3rd or maybe just a 2nd, you got an extra pick along with it because you shot high. Odell Beckham coming off his 2nd ACL, no one is offering him $20 million. That is not going to be a real thing, all right? He's shooting high so that maybe he can get a little bit more than what teams were planning on asking him. You involve other teams, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Bills, the Green Bays, all these teams, so that your price, it looks like you've got competition, all right? That's the situation we're looking at here. So I don't think you're looking at $20 million, but that doesn't mean that Stephen Jones won't go, I don't know. 10, you want 10 million? You want 12 million? I don't know.
I need the injury clause to be ironclad in this, though. I absolutely, because he's not looking for it. We're not paying him for a rental. He's looking for 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And I kind of would like it to be a 2-year with the 3rd year option for us to easily walk away from. I also want that injury clause. We don't, somebody that's got that kind of injury history, we don't need to be giving him a guaranteed when it comes to the injury side of it. We just absolutely don't.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally agree. And, the thing about it is, what is everyone else going to offer? Who out there is saying, yeah, we'll give you 3 years. We'll give you through 2024. Now, if you're talking this year, next year, and like Camber said, the option, I think there's a lot of teams who would do that. I think that you could get into a bidding war over that sort of thing. But a guy who, just his age, he's over 30. You don't really want to be paying a 32, 33-year-old receiver with a bad knee. And right now, you're just looking at his veteran know-how. You're looking for, kind of a person who can pull Michael Gallup, CD Lamb, someone like that off to the side and say, hey, man, here's what this is. When you see that safety position there, you got to flatten out, whatever it may be, who can kind of give those pointers, maybe even help a guy line up a little bit better, a little bit different. And I wasn't even taking shots.
I was like, bless his heart. He did better. He did better this game.
He had a catch, did he? I think he had a catch.
He did get one catch, and he lined up where he was supposed to.
Onside.
On the right side, yeah. So
boy, I
need OBJ as a red zone threat more than anything, to tell you the truth.
Sure.
That's where I need him. I think we can move the ball with Gallup, with CD.
Gallup
Noah
looked good.
Right.
Gallup looked good.
And I'm Mr. Sedarian Lamb. That was some grown ass man on that sideline catch. That was insane, with his toes on the sideline and falling forward like that.
How are you gonna yell ass but whisper shit?
Because just because.
Okay, all right, and I agree, and that takes us to the Brett Maher field goal. But CD Lamb, I mean, you talk about the big play. If you don't have that, obviously you still win. It's 37-3, instead of 40.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're looking at CD as like, man, you are so almost all the time. You're so almost all the time. And here, that was a massive grab that he came up with that put Dallas in a position to kick the field goal. Maher's second one was good from another 5 yards.
It looked better than the first one.
It was.
The first one looked like it wasn't making it, and he snuck it in that lower corner. The next one, he was like, all right, I'm going to do this better. You going to make me do it twice? I'll do it better.
Man, and to me, that's why I had literally tweeted prior to that, he's having a Pro Bowl season, and someone goes, all pro. And I was like, I don't pay attention to the other kickers around the league. I got to think about, this dude who I don't watch is balling out. But then he does that, and I'm like, nah, you was right.
Yeah.
You were right. All pro.
Right.
All pro. All right. Let's get to a prediction.
Okay.
So, Giants, Cowboys, Thanksgiving. Cowboys 3-7 in their last 10 Thanksgiving games. What are we going with, Camber?
Okay, so we are not going to think about the other Thanksgiving games. That
Fair.
is not we are living in the now. We are living who we are, and we're living on what we saw last week.
Scout the player, not the holiday.
Right. Because of the injuries and the problems that they have with their secondary. And I'm going to say that Jalen Smith is a factor as to how our tight ends and our running backs can attack. I mean, because he does one thing. He blitzes, right? Let's keep it real. Jalen can blitz. And
can he?
Oh, it's what he does better than the other things. Okay. Right? We're gonna leave it. We'll leave it. I'm trying to be kind here. I'm trying to be a little kind.
It's hard.
It is, but it is the season of giving and being thankful. So I'm going to be a little bit nice about this. They do have a stout offensive line or defensive line. I will give them that. But because of what's gone on their offense with their wide receivers and everything else, I'm going to throw this out. It's going to be 34-10 Cowboys. And I'm giving him the 10 because of Saquon. That's the Saquon factor. Other than that, I wouldn't be giving them any.
Well, as far as their running game goes, the last time they played, it was, Daniel Jones escaped for 80 yards in the game.
Right.
And then the one pop from Saquon.
Exactly. And that's why I'm
That's
giving
who he
them
is.
the 7 points for Saquon, is because I think Mass said this last time, it's going to be Saquon for 3, Saquon for 4, Saquon for 2, Saquon for -3, Saquon for 39.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
that's
mean,
why.
we
And
talked
I'll give
about
him
it.
a field goal.
Yeah, we talked about it the first time we played them. Is
Right.
if you can just prevent the one pop, prevent the one pop.
Right.
I don't see where their weapons are outside of Saquon Barkley, especially if Bellinger, the rookie tight end, he's a playmaker, man. He's going to
Right.
be a problem in the future, but right now, he's not going to do much against a J-Ron Curse.
Not with one eye.
I don't think that this is a good matchup for the Giants. So I'm going to go Dallas 37, Giants 17, 37-17. 37-17.
Perfect.
We got a couple scores in the chat. 34-13, 27-20. Mendoza, man, got us in a one possession game with the Giants. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it going that way, but
A win's a win.
oh yeah.
A win's a win. Division win, NFC, I'm really, really happy with just coming away with a W. But this is more of what I'm talking about. Right there.
Right.
All right.
40 burger.
That's what I'm talking about. 40 burgers.
I'm going to refrain from saying 40 burger because the 2 times I haven't said 40 burger, we scored it. So I'm not saying 40 burger.
All right. Anything else, Camber?
Not much. Just so y'all know, Mass and I, because of the holiday, instead of doing midday with Cam and Mass on Thursday, we will be on tomorrow at 1:45. So when you all are sitting there dreaming about turkey and that football game the next day, hop on and join us, and we'll take up a little of your afternoon for you.
There you go. You guys like and subscribe to Pick Six Sports. Share it around. We appreciate you hopping in. And we will see you with more Midday Due Diligence after the holidays following a Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving win over the Giants. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.